presentation. And now I would like to give the floor to Zala Simčič, Head of Alumni Clubs Development of the University of Ljubljana. She will give a talk on using a digital platform as a backbone for the association of 60 alumni clubs.
Yes, thank you, and hello to everyone from Ljubljana. So if we just perhaps move on the first slide. Perhaps after this title, first question, why have 60 alumni clubs? All right, so for those of you who don't know, University of Ljubljana consists of 23 faculties and 3 academies. Each of these has at least one alumni club, but some of them have more. For example, we have biotechnical faculty here, which has 9, or faculty of mathematics and physics, which has 2. And then we have faculty of natural sciences and engineering, which has 5. And then we have faculty of arts, which has 22. They have more alumni clubs because they have very different departments and they wish to keep them separate. So all of these alumni clubs consist of about just a little over 8,200 alumni members. So when you have 60 alumni clubs on 26 different faculties, an obvious question might pop up, which is on the next slide, of course. How to keep track of what each club is doing and how to build a sense of community. And an obvious question, of course, for us, an obvious answer, of course, was to use a digital platform. How does it work? When alumni registers, as you can see on this picture on the right, they come to a common space and then they also log into their own faculty club. So they can hang out in the common space and they can also hang out in their club or their ex-faculty space. And what they can do on the platform, they can communicate with each other, whether that be one-on-one or in their clubs or in the common space. They can also book events, search the job board, make the most out of the benefits that we try to offer them, and they can also use the database of the platform for networking and mentorship. So we try to use the platform as a tool of collaboration and communication and as a sort of starting point for all of our activities. So if we go to the next slide, you will see how this platform looks. I think it looks like a love child between Facebook and LinkedIn. And here you can see we have a feed where they can post either on the common space or in their own groups. They can also search for mentor, or they can search for other alumni and they can chat with them. They can also book events and they can also search the job board. So if we move on, as I said, this platform for us is basically a tool. So it still means that we have to do the dirty work, which means the dirty work as in activating our alumni to be present and to be active on the platform, and whether that be in our events or something like that. So what do our faculties do? They try to use alumni as ambassadors or as employer representatives for their students. They also try to encourage them to visit as many events or perhaps lifelong learning classes, or if they are able to give back, whether that be through fundraising or through mentorship programs. And what do? When I say we, I mean the rectorate. we do a lot of promotional events to lure our alumni in to the platform, and we also try to offer them as many benefits as we can find them that are so that they can use them, of course. We also collaborate a lot with career centers in order to promote different career possibilities. So we ask our alumni to present their career path, or but on the other hand, career centers also can give the alumni some career advice if they need it. So if we go on, thank you. When our alumni first register to the platform, they are met with this question: are you willing to help? And 47 of them are. So that would be about just a little bit over 4,000 of them. They are willing to help with sharing information or knowledge to students or to other alumni. And they are also willing to help by becoming a mentor, becoming a volunteer, or becoming an ambassador. So with just this simple question, we just get a really great database to work with, we and our faculties, of course. And for the closure, I would just like to go with you through some of the best practice examples that we have established for the years. So as I said, we try to offer as many benefits to our alumni. We try to offer them discounts for libraries, museums, galleries, and theater. These are discounts that they usually have when they are students, but they lose when they become alumni. So we try to give them that, and they can browse through these benefits on the platform. We also used the platform to search for our alumni ambassadors when our university was celebrating 100 years. And we asked them to share with us their stories, how they were basically stories about their career path. And we recorded them with the national television. And then on the next slide, you can see the next best practice examples. Yes, thank you. One of them is job board. This job board is connected with our career centers platform, where our employers are posting jobs, and they're posting a lot of jobs that are available for our alumni. And then these two platforms are sophisticatedly connected, and so the jobs transfer here as well. And the next one is the digest. I'm sorry, not the next slide, but it's fine, it's fine. Thank you. So the digest, we and our faculties regularly send digests to our alumni to keep them connected with us and with the platform, of course. So the next slide now. Thank you. Also, we do a lot of events. We, of course, post them on the platform that are, this could be promotional events, as you can see this obladovanie strisa on above, or they can be like special lectures or workshop or tea parties, as this on the picture is, that our faculties are doing for our alumni. They can really easily register to event, so everything is very automated and simple. And on the last slide, we have also, we are just finishing the fundraising project, and we've managed to raise just over 10,000 euros for the students in need after that were affected in COVID crisis. And so we also share this through our platform, and we encourage alumni to give as much as they can. And the last thing, we also use we also use alumni. We connect through the platform to use them as a university promotion, whether that be as faculty promotion, that would be the first example, or as promoting a certain career path. So yeah, that will be all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Zala, for this very interesting presentation. Now it is a pleasure to give the floor to Sonia Mullineux, Head of Alumni Communications of the University of Edinburgh. She will give a talk on what is it like to graduate during a pandemic.
Well, indeed, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the previous speakers. I think I'm the last one up. So yeah, for the University of Edinburgh, effective alumni relations offers a sustained relationship with former students based around shared values, intellectual curiosity, mutual support, and meaningful opportunities to stay involved with the life and work of the university. I work in development and alumni, and part of our work involves supporting graduate transition in partnership with colleagues in the university's career service. And in 2019, this partnership was strengthened with the creation of the multi-story Edinburgh project. And we had plans in place to grow this area of support in 2020. And then the world suddenly changed. And we had a plan, but as the world slowly closed in on itself, we realized it wasn't quite the right plan. So what to do next? Next slide, please. Right, so we stepped back and we decided that if we wanted to effectively respond to our graduates, then we needed to understand exactly what was going on. There are initiatives already in place to help us do this, including a what's next careers destination question, which was asked to all graduating students. But this just provided one piece of the picture. We felt that our understanding, if we were to respond, if we were to learn, then it needed to include how people felt and why they'd made decisions that they had made. So next slide and a little bit of audio, please. Sounds like there might be a little issue with the audio here. Do we want to?
Were you able to listen or not at all?
I didn't get any of it.
I believe that it might be that the sound of the computer is not shared while presenting.
Yeah, we checked it at the beginning, but I'll try again.
So yeah, that was the first time I'd gone back, and it was weird, like getting off the train and not having going to my flat or having like a place to call home there. Really, I find that quite hard to come to terms with, because it was all so sudden and we haven't had like a ceremony or anything. I just got an email being like, "You've done it. See you later." Maybe.
We had our last class together, but we didn't even know it was our last class at the time. It was like we had a class one week and then the next week everything was cancelled. And then again, everyone thought it was going to be over in like 3 weeks or something, and that's still not happened yet. So
I started to have a real sense of panic that my academic kind of abilities were just going to plummet in the midst of coping with a pandemic, and that I wouldn't end up with the degree that I needed.
I felt so separated from like the life that I'd built, and then from the plans not to happen, I was then kind of stuck at home like, oh my god, I don't know what to do, and I haven't got any prospects, and this is just a mess.
I was panicking, but not organizing anything else. It's that kind of panic that renders you incapable to get yourself together in a way.
I'm not particularly a fan of going out of my comfort zone, and I think the world's just quite crazy just now that, you know, staying at uni for another year just felt like an extension of that kind of safety that I've known for the last 4 years as well.
I am currently unemployed after a spell of 5 months of employment working in kind of IT and customer services, a job that definitely wasn't for me. And when I realized it wasn't for me long term and it was quite a stressful job, I decided, like, what's the point doing it short term?
But I feel like I'm late on my own life. Those are the days that I'm like, oh, like, when are things going to start happening? But yeah, I think from everything I've heard from everyone else, the first year after you graduate is meant to be scary, even if you have a job.
Okay, next slide. So this presentation is focused on one of the ways that we try to better understand our graduates, the Multi-Story Edinburgh podcast, and the audio clips that you just heard are all taken from it. So over the course of 6 months, I taught, in fact, to over 30 graduates from the class of 2020, tried to take them from all over the university, from every single discipline that I could possibly do from this room in my house. Each conversation was edited into a 10-minute podcast, each featuring a single graduate and their story. And so why did we do it? Why a podcast? I suppose because we wanted to hear directly from our graduates. We wanted to hear their voices. And we looked at podcasting because we felt it offered a communications channel that was informal, that was intimate, and that was accessible. I suppose I see it as a communication channel that allowed them to be themselves. We didn't want an institutional voice, we just wanted their voices because it was about us listening to them. And then kind of connected to that, we wanted unfiltered experiences. So if this was to be effective, if this was to be strategic, if we were to take things from this, then we needed to know what was actually going on. And again, that took us back to the idea of podcasting. And ultimately what we ended up with was something that was authentic, as I said, something that was honest, and just something that was quite powerful, actually. Next slide. So what was the value of hearing these graduate voices? So I think one was kind of how we envisaged it from the beginning, which was that idea of peer support. So the primary audience for the podcast was always the class of 2020 themselves. So that's who we actively promoted it to. So the feedback that we received was all about the value in simply being able to listen to other people who were in the same, similar, kind of overlapping situations as you. So reinforcing the idea that you're not alone, and I suppose reinforcing that overall idea of what alumni relations is, which is the idea of community, and that you are here, you're part of a community, and you can directly hear from other members within it. So its second value for us was that we were able to respond to genuine needs. So it's one thing kind of reading the media and kind of guessing what's going on. I think we all saw the stories about cancelled internships and less economic opportunities. But I think just going under that layer and sort of understanding the detail. So, for example, one of the things that came out quite strongly was managing people's mental health and well-being. And so from that information, we got in touch with that area of the university and so opened up support and facilities which were previously only offered to students, and we opened those facilities up for alumni. And then a second thing we found out about was a lot of people had secured maybe short-term internships or single-year jobs or whatever that was, and they weren't sure how to make the most out of those jobs. Like, they were limited in time, so how to make the most out of what I'm doing. And again, that enabled our careers service to go away, to talk to the careers consultants and to develop content around that to actively support our graduates. I think something we didn't expect was that a lot of the podcasts themselves contained direct advice and guidance within it. So because they're quite reflective, you actually get someone working through a problem live, if that makes sense. So this happened to me this was the way that I responded. And so just hearing that from the horse's mouth, that kind of direct advice and guidance, when that emerges organically, we pulled it out and we used it. I said at the start that this was aimed primarily at the other 2020 graduates, but I think the more we looked at the content, the more we realized it was quite relevant for especially kind of final year students. And so there was some, I don't know, it's a touch point for what they had to expect and what the world was currently looking like. And so I think we worked with a number of different schools who actively saw the relevance for current students.
Hello, hello.
Okay. Next slide, please. And so next steps. Sorry. Our next steps were building awareness of the project. Not everyone has the time or the inclination to listen to a podcast. So when we'd finished the 2020 episodes, we produced other marketing materials around it to promote it both internally and with that community again. So that was a kind of attractive digital long read article that pulled different threads from a range of episodes, and that enabled us to almost repackage it and to see it as its entirety, the sort of season 1, the class of 2020. So we've also used what we learned from within the podcast to kind of enhance our program of support for 2021 graduates. So that's working again directly with the career service, pulling out things that were very prominent within the class of 2020 and changing the way that we have put together the package of support for 2021. And then we're kind of doing it again. So I've currently talked to 15 graduates, I think, from the class of 2021. It's very different. The mood's very different. Attitudes are very different. So again, it's this kind of organic, ever-changing thing that we can listen to. Again, it's back to that idea. We can listen to people and we can continually respond. And I think more broadly, it's kind of made us think more deeply about podcasting in general as a communications channel and its value to alumni relations, whether that's in terms of what we do internationally or what we do on campus. Again, looking at partnerships with Edinburgh Global, partnerships with the career service, the stuff we do just to promote alumni in general. Is there a place within that for podcasting? And I think the answer is yes. Do we have the staff or the capacity? Don't know yet, but I'm certainly going to pitch for more of it in the future. Next slide, please. And of course, obviously, I want you to listen to it so you can see what you think. You can listen to Multistory Edinburgh on Apple, Spotify, your favourite podcast platform. You just have to search for Multistory Edinburgh. And we also stream episodes online at multistoryedinburgh.buzzsprout.com. And yeah, it's been a really great project to be involved in, and it's been a privilege talking to graduates of the university. So thank you very much for this opportunity to tell you about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sonia, for this very inspiring presentation. So very good ideas, I think, for many other universities. So unfortunately, I have to leave in a few minutes. I really apologize, but I would like to start the discussion, Arnim, if you agree, with
Absolutely.
a question.
Please do.
Very interesting question in the chat that I saw related to the biggest challenges that all of you see, in front of all what actually was presented today. Really, I would like to thank all the speakers for the different presentation, because I think we got several ideas from all of you. And indeed, we got these questions in the chat from the University of Gothenburg, asking, which are the big challenges when we talk about alumni? And yes, alumni can be, as we saw, students, can be PhD students, could be researchers, could be our own, full degree students who just exchange students. Some of them may be in difficult conditions, as Thorsten said in the beginning. They could be scholars at risk, maybe, so for them it would be difficult maybe to go back to their own countries, or they may be refugees. So overall, we see that it's difficult to handle this very important part of our activities at universities. So in your opinion, I would like to ask maybe all the panelists in 1 minute, if you can manage to summarize, in your opinion, which are the priorities, which would be the best organization. We listened to, for instance, University of Ljubljana presenting the case of different clubs and the more, let's say, disciplinary. But we know, on the other hand, that also to have multidisciplinary groups is also very interesting. But of course, you lose a little bit of the experience there. So I would like just to ask all of you in 1 minute to summarize which you think are the best priorities.
So maybe we do this in the order of appearance.
Yes, please.
So maybe Torsten, you start. Here we go.
Yeah, I think one big challenge is, of course, I talked about all those events. You need some money for those events. So we are in need of third-party funding, or yeah, we have to focus on how we can really get those events as part of our alumni strategy sustainable. And then, I mean, I also pointed out that many of the alumni, they have many alma maters. So how you keep those alumni interested in what you do. So talking about communication, this is a big challenge. And then at the end, of course, you have to define interesting functions for the alumni in order to get them or in order to transform them from just being simply an alumni to becoming a friend, as I pointed out. That's it from my side, very short.
Okay, Carol?
Yes, for us, when we were talking about international alumni chapters, then my experience is normally first a rector is going there, there is a mission, academic diplomacy and so on, and everybody is very enthusiastic to become a member of the alumni chapter. And then you see after, for some chapters, sometimes it's very difficult to keep the chapter, let's say, active. As I said, you have to keep, let's say, very often with them, in contact with them, just to say, okay, are you still there? We are still there. What can we do for you? And yeah, it takes a lot of support from our side, because yeah, sometimes they're young, they have young families and so on, very busy job. And then you see at the end for some chapters, yeah, it's quite a challenge to, yeah, let's say to that chapter is still there and active. So this is for us one of the main, let's say, main challenges. And another thing is also to have the contact details. Of course, now we have the online system, the online platform, but what we see, let's say the alumni are putting an address from their work, from their first job. And then, for example, after 3 years, yes, which is normal, they didn't updated their contact details, and then you have to look in LinkedIn and through other platforms, other systems. So this is also a second thing for us, to keep the database up to date, to have all the contact details from your alumni. This is also a very important thing for Ghent University.
Thank you very much, Carol. And Barbara, please.
Hi. Well, I agree with everything that my previous colleagues mentioned. I just would like to highlight an aspect that is really important for us, which is the availability of our alumni. We understand that recent graduates have other priorities, let's say. They want to get their own jobs, their first jobs. They want to really dedicate their time doing different things, having different experiences. So sometimes it's very difficult to have these recent graduates to commit to an alumni ambassador program. On the other hand, the mobility students, they are very much available. This was what we understood. So overall, we believe that because most of them are still a student, when they go back to their home university to finish their degrees, they are still very much available to cooperate with University of Porto. So this was a way also to balance the difficulties in engaging the alumni. And that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Barbara. We come back to you, of course, with regard to questions. And now, Athena, please, a very short glimpse into what you find most challenging in alumni relations activities.
Listening to our other speakers, I figured out that we share the same concerns, and we're dealing with the same challenges. The budgetarial thing, it's an issue, so we are concerned that we won't keep up with our resources as our community, our alumni community grows with the years. Also, the issues rising from the database management of all those digital platforms that we're using to achieve our goals. That's an issue too. So because we have difficulty to update those contact information of our alumni. They don't get back to us. So updating those platforms, it's a huge challenge for us too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And now, Zala, would you like to share a few thoughts on that as well?
Yes, for us, a big challenge is coordination of all of these clubs, because some clubs are more active and independent than others. Some need more support. And then the other thing is, the other challenge is that we and all of our faculties have a lot of ideas, but not enough staff to work on them. So that would be an issue for us as well.
Okay, yes, resources and capacity are a central institutional challenge. I can completely see that. Sonia, would you like to add some more?
I suppose mine's a little bit about identity, because I think I share obviously a lot of the things previously mentioned, but I think for us, one of the things that we see as a challenge is that awareness of that you're an alumna while you're at the university, in a sense. So that kind of interface between students and alumni. So students getting to know alumni better. And so to kind of embed that idea that you are forever connected and part of this community with the university. And so for us, a real focus is on more student-facing activities, and that's a real challenge for us moving forward. But we think it will be a total game changer, maybe. Who knows?
Thank you so much. So, and thanks a lot for your questions. They were duly noted. We probably will try to have at least one question per speaker acknowledged. And I would like to start with a question from Ingeborg from Vienna. And she asked Thorsten that she would like to know a bit more about the mentoring program. So on one hand, of course, Thorsten can probably send her information after the meeting, and I can also inform all participants that UNICA and the SGroup will continue a strand of activities and projects that are related to alumni relations and alumni strategies. But I'm very sure Thorsten would like to elaborate a little bit more on that subject right now and give a direct answer to Ingeborg, please.
Yeah, when we set up the project, which tries to support refugees or academics in that case with a refugee background in order to get better access or build bridges to the labor market, especially the regional labor market, it came to our mind, why not involving our international alumni, and specifically, of course, if possible and accessible, those alumni who also have been part of our support refugee programs previously and successfully already entered the labor market, and to share direct experiences. And it's a whole different thing if you apply or try to access the labor market, the German labor market, if you are raised and are, let's say, a national alumni. You have experiences how to apply, where to get information, and so on and so forth. So all those tools that you need to successfully enter the labor market, is specifically the regional labor market. Now we're talking about Bayreuth, which is more like, let's say, a very industrialized region, but we are not very close to big cities. It is a very specific labor market as well. So we thought about how to involve our alumni, in that case, our international alumni, but the approach to this job alumni mentoring program was also to open it, of course, to alumni from other, in general, institutions, and to keep it very open. And I can say now, let's say we have 1/3 of all our mentors are international alumni. Some of them have the refugee background, and 1/3 is also, the so-called, in our definition, friends. So they belong to another alma mater. And so this basically is the idea to get, let's say, to create a space where you have directly knowledge transfer. And in a nutshell, the whole project. But I already contacted Ingeborg in order to make a Zoom to get shared experiences. Maybe she has some experience at her institution as well.
Thank you so much for that quick but still quite comprehensive answer. I would like to go on to a question to Carol that has been asked by Adriana Moreno from Oslo, I think. And she asks whether the Infinitum platform was developed by the University of Ghent internally, or whether you use another provider's software tools. So please, Carol.
No, it's an external provider, so it's not an in-house system. So we put it together, the different options, and then we saw that an external, they have the expertise, they know what the alumni need. So it is, for us, it's we have chosen for Hive-Bright. So we have several systems in let's say on the market. You have also Gradaway, and we took Hive-Bright because, in our opinion, this was the best system, the system that we were really looking for, what we needed. So, because also, if we took the decision to produce it in the university, it would take too much time. So we wanted very quick a system because we wanted to have it. We were already thinking about it for several years. And then, we had a budget and so on. And then, it's an external provider. Yeah, but I can always, if you want more to know what are the options and so on, I can always ask my colleagues from the Department of Communication and Marketing who were involved in the whole procedure of buying the system. I can bring you in contact with them. No problem.
Excellent. Thank you, Carol, and thank you, of course, also for the question, Adriana. And now there's a question to Barbara coming from Tina at the University of Helsinki. And she asked about the Exchange Ambassadors program and asked whether the project has a 1-year activation cycle or not. Maybe, Barbara, you could say a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Arnim. Thank you for the question, Tina. Actually, the program, this is a pilot project, as I said. We hope to build a program out of this experience that has been very positive so far. Ambassadors, exchange or mobility ambassadors, they take on a 2 years mandate that can then be renewed for a second term. But as I mentioned, as a pilot project, well, we don't have any specific budget awarded so far. So everything is done on a volunteering base, and that's why we decided to conduct a first, let's say, assessment of the impact of the pilot project, so that we can have the necessary arguments to then shift into a full program in 2022. But as I mentioned, we at least this pilot project is intended to last for at least 2 years.
Okay, thank you so much, Barbara, and thank you also, Tina, for the question. Now I would like to go on to one or slightly double of the many questions Andy has asked us. Andy Adams from the University of Luxembourg. Thank you very much to your to-the-point questions to several speakers. And I would like to ask his questions for Athena now. So Athena, Andy asks, how are your alumni social media channels coordinated, either with or differentiated from the University of Cyprus's other university social media channels? And are they managed in the same way? Could you please elaborate a little bit on that, Athena?
Yes, Andy, thank you for the question. Actually, the alumni social media channels, since they are addressed to different target audiences, mainly the alumni and secondary to the other alumni community members, they're managed from the data office, whereas the overall social media channels of the university, of the whole university, are being managed by the communication team, of course, of the communication office. Of course, both offices belong to the same organizational chart and to the same unit, the rectorate. So they're coordinated all the time. They're in coordination. So in case something is targeted directly to the alumni, goes through the alumni social media channels. And if it is addressed to the whole community, it goes through the community communication office. So when it's needed, we are in coordination. We do that. When it's not, we work separately.
Thank you so much for this very clear answer. I saw Andy nodding, so he obviously appreciated the answer as well, as we all did. And I would like to move on to Redu's question. So Redu Petrariu from Bucharest asked a couple of short questions to Zala. And he is interested in, first of all, how do your alumni learn about your alumni platform? So is there any information on that? And the second question was concerned with data protection regulations. So, and can we ensure the GDPR compliance of regulations with regard to the online platform? And the third question, I think, was whether the membership is free of charge. Could you elaborate, please, Zala, on these questions a little bit? Here you go.
Yes, of course. So perhaps the first, how our alumni get to know the platform. They are invited to it to register by their faculties. When they graduate, they receive a physical invitation to become a member of our, or if I say better, of their alumni club. And they also receive an invitation through email, also after they graduate. We also work closely with career centers, and we use their database to promote the alumni association and to let them know that they can still have benefits even after they graduate. They just have to register to the platform. And we also have a lot of promotional events and a lot of different promotional campaigns through social media. So that would be the first question. The second question, when the alumni registers to the platform, they have to agree to conditions of use and privacy policy. I'm not sure if this is answering the question, but please let me know. And the last question that was, I'm not sure if it's meant if the membership for the alumni club for our alumni is free, or
I think probably
yeah.
that was the question. Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, it's free. It's free for our alumni. It's free. We don't charge anything.
Okay, thank you so much. And now I would like to go on to a question to Sonia that Petra Skalova from Charles University in Prague has asked, and she asked, will you work with the interviewees further in the future, and will they become your university ambassadors possibly? So Sonia, have you considered that?
That would be the pipe dream, wouldn't it, to have sustained them, I suppose. Certainly a lot of them do keep in touch, which is really lovely, and have stayed quite in close contact and let us know what they've been doing. And we had a sort of informal little arrangement at the end that we check back on them in 5 years' time and sort of see what happened. And if I'm still here, there's certainly a note on the database that says, in 5 years' time, follow up with these people. And so we can have a kind of a retrospective, whether that's a podcast or not. So, but not formal ambassadors as of yet, no.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to go on and go to another question of Andy. Andy asked a question at the very beginning to Torsten, and he asked, are the ACPs, the alumni contact points, are they people or entities? And if entities, how is the institutional relationship with the university and the ACPs formalized? So maybe you could give us a short answer to that.
Yeah, short answer. I also answered him directly. Yeah, in general, you can say so. Some of them are persons, and of course, together with us in a coordinated way, we plan everything. They keep in touch. They are very committed. They see themselves also as, let's say, door and gate openers towards our institution, but also towards the German, let's say, in general research opportunities. And then, of course, talking about, for example, our gateway offices, which also function as alumni contact points, they are institutionalized and formalized. It depends. So it depends on the case and what is practical. And yeah, so in a nutshell.
All right, thank you so much, and thanks, Andy, for this question. And I go on to another question by Andy, because he asked one to Carol as well. Carol, he had a question saying, how has the engagement been on your platform? Meaning bringing alumni in to using your platform versus going out and being present on platforms where your alumni already are active. Mm-hmm. That is his questions about the communication methodology and experiences here.
So yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, this was also a remark that we received from alumni who were saying, yes, but I'm already on LinkedIn and you're asking the same information, but there is a direct link with the platform. So they don't have to refill everything. So if they have a profile on LinkedIn, it's connected. It can be connected with the platform. So this is a big advantage. So yeah, this was something that we checked after we introduced the system, which was yeah, a very important issue, in fact, because to become a member of the platform, it requires an action from the user. So it's not like we are putting, of course, we have the list of the graduates, and then we put it into the system. But that doesn't mean we call them like, yeah, sleeping members. So they have to become active. So it requires an action from them, and this is something we want to keep this. Yeah, don't want to ask them to fill a lot long forms. It's just a quick press on a button, and if they have a LinkedIn, it's automatically put into the system, their information, like what they have done, their first jobs, and so on. So this is very important, that you don't ask your members to complete long forms. This is what we have seen. This was our experience. If they see they have to complete something very long, they leave the platform. So, but of course, now when we are checking the numbers, yeah, we still have to take a lot of, we have to do a lot of promotion of the system. This is of course for sure, because you have LinkedIn, you have Facebook, you have several systems to be part of a community. So this is quite a challenge for us also. But now the platform is there, so it's connected with other systems, and but anyway, we still have some work to do.
Okay, thank you so much. I would take now the liberty to ask one question that I have, particularly to Zala and to Athena, because both of you talked about fundraising explicitly. And yes, Zala, you have given us one number of one project that you have raised, but I would be interested, could you in more general terms say, how does the fundraising work with your alumni first? Second, connected to that, what is your experience for what purposes alumni tend to donate more than maybe for others? Because asking for enhancing or sustaining the infrastructure of your office would probably not be that appealing to them than some other direct purpose, where they could support individuals, other individuals with scholarships, for instance. And could you give us a rough estimate when you not only look at one of the projects, but if you can say, okay, our fundraising normally annually brings around that amount of funding. I don't know who would like to go first on that. Maybe you, Zala?
Yes, of course. So this was our first, it was like a pilot project, this fundraising that I mentioned, and it was it wasn't just for alumni, but it was for all the public. But we also asked alumni, because we believed that because the fundraising was meant for students in need, which means for students that were affected in COVID crisis, so that because they couldn't work as much as they would normally, they didn't have as much money. So we tried to ask, we believe that alumni would be one of the channels that would be happy to give back or to pay forward to other students. So I think that it worked really well. I believe that mostly people who were, I'm estimating this now, I don't have the data on me, but I think mostly it was university staff that gave money, so, and alumni. And I think this, it worked really nice, and it was a very successful pilot project, and we decided that we will continue with them, but for those very special reasons, whether that be students in need or students with young families and so on.
Thank you so much. Athena, what is your take on that? You're still muted.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
Apologies for that. So it's the same with the University of Cyprus. Actually, fundraising was included in the activities of the Alumni Relations Office in the last in 2019, actually, when we were transformed in a Development and Alumni Relations Office. So the first fundraising campaign that we had took place in 2020 in the context of the pandemic. So the aim was to fundraise money for research purposes, research that saves life. Actually, one of my digital marketing campaigns were referring to that. So was one of the samples shown there. I'm not specifically aware of the exact amount that we've raised up to this moment, but it wasn't okay, it depends on whose perspective and on the size of the university, if you could say it's a huge amount or a normal one. But I could say that it was quite satisfactory for the university.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And I would suggest to go to another question to all speakers, and with that, ideally round up our very interesting and inspiring and stimulating webinar. And that question comes from Arthur Schmidt from the University of Granada. And he asked, do you allow for direct interaction between alumni? And if so, how do you make sure that there is no abuse or misconduct? So that is an interesting question, challenging question. We have like 8 minutes left, so each speaker again has 1 minute. Torsten, we start with you. Go on.
That's a very good question, which also popped up when we set up our job alumni mentoring program. I would say if social media and platforms are involved, we have to be very careful. Apart from that, I also would say we are very careful in allowing the alumni to interact directly, so sharing data and so on and so forth. So I would say keep, specifically with our alumni work, we keep it on a very low profile.
Okay, excellent. Carol, you're involved in communications very much as well.
Yeah, I don't have any negative experience with that. So, but of course, one of the main issues is, of course, the GDPR rule. There we have to take very care of that. I think this is a very important aspect. But yeah, all the alumni are very enthusiastic. So yeah, I didn't have, in the communications, of course, you always have to be careful. It's an online platform. But before we allow a person on the platform, yeah, we are really checking if it's an alumnus from Ghent University. So there is a control system on it. So we are careful about that. Yeah, but for the I think this is the most important thing. And I think you cannot totally avoid, people who are putting communications on it. Yeah. But we are checking it regularly, and if we see something which is not okay, then we delete it immediately. Of course, but we have to control the system. That's for sure. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you, Barbara. Would you like to elaborate on that as well? You are still
actually.
Okay.
I clicked twice. Silly me. We are actually working on a set of rules of conduct to really formalize it. But as Carol mentioned, we also don't have bad experiences so far. But as a preventive measure, we are already working on these rules of conduct and ethical values that will therefore be signed by each ambassador. I have to say that for instance, in the program, the pilot project that I presented earlier, we organized preparatory meetings. So Albino, that is my colleague that is coordinating this project, this pilot project, he organized online meetings with all mobility ambassadors in order to really make them understand what their role is, the do's and don'ts involved in the process of representing the university. And one of the aspects that he was really keen on explaining was actually the fact that they cannot use the name of the University of Porto for their own purposes to gain some kind of benefit. And this was something that we understood that, of course, everybody knows that, but it's always better to really communicate it. And also, we do have a list of pre-approved activities. And Albino is always looking out, as Carol also mentioned, looking out to see what they post online, if everything is okay, especially in LinkedIn. We keep track on their activities also.
Thank you so much. Athena, please, what's your take on this question with regard to direct interaction and avoiding abuse or misconduct?
The University of Cyprus actually monitors all the users of the social media platforms, of all the digital platforms we have in place. And since in those platforms we are mainly engaging with alumni community, so we could say that we have a more controlled way to tackle with behaviors or communications that go south, let's say. So we have a policy in place for GDPR. So not only managers and admins have it in mind and keep it in mind, they communicate it to the users as well, because it concerns them both. And of course, definitely those such bad communications have we consider them as small crises. We try to contain the damage they create. We have a policy in place to retain and handle such an event of a crisis. We are in coordination directly with the CEO of the university, director, and the senior management of the university, and of course the communication office to solve any crisis deriving from those digital platforms and the bad communication.
Thank you so much. Zala, would you like to add something from your perspective?
Yeah, maybe just that we have like sort of code of ethics published. So what you can or can't do on the platform and in private communication. And as other speakers mentioned, we also didn't have any negative experience so far.
Okay, thank you so much. Sonia?
So again, we have a code of conduct that people sign up to when using our alumni student platform. And I'm trying to think of the other areas that it would cover, also any sort of mentoring that we do with the career service as well. And then anything that happens out with that in terms of on social media is handled by our communications and marketing department. So they can deal with any complaints or negative comments that might come in via social media. So we very much restrict ourselves to looking after the platforms where we have kind of direct alumni contact. So the rest is done elsewhere.
Thank you so much. So we try to reach a bang on the minute finish of this webinar. Thank you very much for being here. The many registrations, those who attended, in particular those who stayed with us until the end. I would like to thank very much, in particular, Luciano and Barbara, actually, who had the idea for this whole initiative. And then, of course, Thorsten, Carol, and Athena, Zala, and Sonia joining us as speakers. And of course, our fantastic team from UNICA and SGroup, in particular Laura, Alexandra, and Joanna, who made this really a very smooth endeavor. And to everyone else, it's 5 o'clock. We managed to finish a very balanced presentation and discussion. And we will go on. We keep you posted. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon and evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.